The following is a list of the most important periods of Slovak literature. Slovak literature is the literature of Slovakia. History. Middle Ages. The first monuments of literature from territory now included in present-day Slovakia are from the time of Great Moravia. Authors from this period are St. Cyril, St. Methodius and Clement of Ohrid. Works from this period, mostly written on Christian topics, include the poem Preglasas, a foreword to the four Gospels, partial translations of the Bible into Old Church Slavonic, Zakon Sudnij Ludum, etc. The medieval period covers the span from the 11th to the 15th century. Literature in this period was written in Latin, Czech and Slovakized Czech. Lyric poetry was still under the influence of the Church, while epic poetry concentrated on legends. Authors from this period include Johannes de Théroch, author of the Chronica Hungarorum, and Maurus. Secular literature also emerged, and chronicles were written in this period. Literature of a national character first emerged in the 16th century, much later than for other national literatures. Latin dominates as the written language in the 16th century. Besides church topics, there was a development of antique topics related to ancient Greece and Rome. The first Slovak printed book was the Book of Oaths by Vasek Zaleski. An early Slovak Renaissance love poem is the anonymous epic Saladi and Hadmazi, set against a background of the Turkish incursions into Central Europe. Jurij Tranovsky was sometimes called the father of Slovak hymnody and issued several collections of hymns, the first being the Latin Odarum Sacrarum Sive Hymnorum Libri 3 in 1629, but his most important and most famous word was Zathara Sanctorum, written in Czech, which appeared in 1636 in Lavoka. This latter volume has formed the basis of Czech and Slovak Lutheran hymnody to the present day. Against the background of the scarcity of Slovak literature, Tranovsky's Slovak hymns formed a source for raising national consciousness, with the distinction between religious and secular literature that had started to develop in the Renaissance period. The religious conflicts in Slovakia during the Baroque period led to a clear division between sacred and profane. Daniel Sinapius Horsic, who wrote Latin poems and school dramas, religious prose, proverbs and select Slovak spiritual poetry. His prose displays national consciousness, lauding the Slovak language and criticizing the lack of patriotism among his fellow Slovaks. Hugo Langavlovich authored religious, moral, and educational writings in the contemporary West Slovak vernacular, and was a prominent representative of Baroque literature in Slovakia. His most famous piece of work is Valašská škola Moravu v Stardala, a work of 17,862 verses, as well as numerous versified couplet marginalia. Slovak classicism was part of the larger European neoclassicist movement of the Enlightenment. The rise of nationalism in the aftermath of the French Revolution gave rise to a national revival in literature. Until the mid-19th century, Slovak was generally written in the form of Czech, with various degrees of Slovakization. Anton Bernlach's Grammatica Slavica used a West Slovak dialect as the standard written form, a transitional step to modern literary Slovak, but ultimately a failure. Even so, significant works were published using Bernlach's standards, beginning with Jurij Fandley's 1879 Duvena Zedmuva Madzidnikomadablom. Lutheran Slovaks like Augustin Olzal, Jurij Palkovich and Pavel Joseph Safarik tended to prefer a common Czech-Slovak identity and language. The first Hungarian newspaper Magyar Hermondo was published in Pressburg in 1780, followed in 1783 by the fifth Slovak newspaper, a short-lived periodical, Prispershane Noviny in 1783. Joseph Ignac Bajza is best known for his novel Rene Mladenka Príhody which was the first novel written in Slovak language. Pan-Slavic unity served as the template for many poems of this period. Jan Koller's collection of 150 poems, Slavy D. Sera, glorifies Pan-Slavic ideals in 3 cantos named after the Sale, Elbe and Danube. Jan Holly's epic poems Vatopluk, published in 1833, serves as the most significant text of the period. Ludovic Stur was the leader of the Slovak national revival in the 19th century, the author of the Slovak language standard eventually leading to the contemporary Slovak literary language. The Central Slovak dialect was chosen as the basis of a literary language. Stur's codification work was disapproved by Jan Koller and the Czechs, who saw it as an act of Slovak withdrawal from the idea of a common Czechoslovak nation and a weakening of solidarity. But the majority of Slovak scholars, including the Catholics, welcomed the notion of codification. In 1844, he wrote Nareku Slovinsku alebo poetry bepisania v tomto narasi. In 1853, the only compilation of his poetry, Spevia Piene, was published in Pressburg. Janko Král was one of the first poets to start writing in the modern Slovak language standard freshly codified by Ludovic Stur and his companions. Dramatist Jan Chalupka's first works were in Czech, but after 1848 he started writing in Slovak and translated Czech originals into Slovak. Pavol Orsavjezdislav wrote his youthful poems only in Hungarian until the 1860s. In 1871 he participated in the preparation of the Almanac Napid, which marks the beginning of a new literary generation in Slovak literature. He introduced the syllabic tonic verse into Slovak poetry and became leading representative of Slovak literary realism. His style is characterized by extensive use of self-coined words and expressions, making it difficult to translate his works into foreign languages. Martin Kukusin was the most notable representative of Slovak literary realism, and considered to be one of the founders of modern Slovak prose. As a result of the breakup of the Austro-Hungarian Empire and subsequent establishment of Czechoslovakia, the socio-linguistic pressures of Magyarization disappeared. During the interwar period, the preeminence of poetry gave way to prose. Milo Urban's 1927 work Zivibik and Joseph Sijeronsky's 1933 novel Joseph Mack both focused on the village and the nature of change. During the turbulent years of the Slovak Republic and re-establishment of Czechoslovakia, 2 separate literary movements dominated: the lyrical prose of Wronski, František Svantna, Dobroslav Krobik, Ludo Ondřejchov and Margarita Figuli, and the Slovak surrealists.